Well, I want to welcome everyone to this circle. This is a circle of community where we gather each and every Sunday. Whether we look like this or we are a few different people, a few new people, this is the circle that we are today, and we're grateful for it. As we gather in this circle, we join today to embark on a new series, a new Sunday series that we start today. Entitled Sidetracks of the Spirit. We're going to focus in the next number of weeks on those challenges and those issues in our lives that have a tendency to sidetrack us from our spiritual journeys, that have the tendency to derail us in the intentions we have for the value-driven lives that we aspire to. So today we're going to focus not just on gratitude, because I think before we get to gratitude, we journey through the sidetrack of entitlement, and so we're going to explore that sidetrack of the Spirit this morning as we gather. As a way to focus us in this time, I'm going to offer a few phrases that welcome us, that offer our gratitude. And if you would respond to each phrase I offer with the phrase, "We come with gratitude." On this new day, in a season that speaks warmth and hope, we come with gratitude. On our spiritual journeys that have wound our way through our lives, up and down, twists and turns, all of them leading us here, we come with gratitude. For this land that we share, the peoples who have loved and lived on this land for generations, our own ancestors, and our partnership with Aboriginal sisters and brothers, their history and their culture, we come with gratitude. Our openness of this circle, our community, where all are welcome and all that make their way here have a place in this circle, and all who seek and all who come, that there's a place for you. We come with gratitude. And so we sing of our place in this great earth and on this great land.
we take time now to quiet our voices and our hands and our hearts and our minds. And by our presence here, we make of this space, a sacred circle, where we bring our own spirituality into the presence of the spirituality of all who are gathered here and of all who are gathered in many communities this morning in our province and in our country and in our world. And so whether you've been a part of this circle since Southminster and Steinhauer United Churches first came into being, which is some years ago, or whether you've been part of this circle for a few years or for a few months, or whether you've been part of this circle today for the very first time, know that on this day you belong here. You're welcome, you're part of the circle, and you bring your spirituality to join the circle of all that is sacred here.
This is a reading from Matthew chapter 20, starting at the first verse. The spiritual life is like a landowner who went about early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. And when he went out again at about noon and at about 3 o'clock, he did the same. And about 5 o'clock he went out and found others standing around, and he said to them, "Why are you standing here idle all day?" And they said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, "Call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first." When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now when the first came, they thought they would receive more. But each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last worked only an hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to one of them, "Friend, I'm doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to the last the same as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I'm generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last."
This is a poem entitled Pied Beauty by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brindled cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh fire, coal, chestnuts fall, finches' wings, landscape plotted and pierced, foal, fallow, and plough, and all trades, their gear and tackle and trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange, whatever is fickle, freckled, who knows how, with swift, slow, sweet, sour, a dazzle dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change. Praise him. This is the writing of a 19th century poet. May we find wisdom.
Things are becoming more instantaneous all the time. There are faster flights in cars, but more people in airplanes and on the roads. Even though people are improving their service, our expectations are continuing to rise. When I order a book online and I get it tomorrow or the next day, I'm thrilled. When I pay my bills online, I can't even tell you the last time I paid a bill in person. I don't even remember what that's like. So we get this instant gratification and quick turnaround, and that quickly becomes the standard expectation. So that when we actually do deal with real people in real face-to-face situations, we bring that instant expectation with us. If I can get it instantly or in a day online, why aren't you serving me quicker? Feeling entitled to something you aren't getting leads any of us to frustration. And then it leads to bratty behavior and confrontation. Nearly 80% of North Americans say rudeness, particularly behind the wheel, on cell phones and in customer service interactions, should be regarded as a serious problem. Entitlement is something that's part of our human ego. And it transcends generations. Doesn't matter how old or young we are. Healthy eating habits are sabotaged because we tell ourselves we deserve a piece of cake or a second helping of dinner, that we deserve that high-fat treat that we see by the checkout because, darn it, we've just shopped all day, we've worked hard, we deserve this or that treat. I've heard reports that people convicted of theft say that they often start with very small things. A box of pencils from their office, a few extra bucks from petty cash. Why? Why do they do it? They are asked because they felt they worked hard and they deserved it. They felt they deserved more than their salary, than their paycheck, than the current level of pride their boss had in them, etc. Now, clearly, this isn't just a 21st century problem. That would be the short view. The long view is that this is part of the human condition. Let's go back a couple millennia and look at the ancient story we told together earlier. The workers in the vineyard clearly had some entitlement issues. The ones hired at the start of the day felt good about their prospects. They were going to get a day's wage for a day's work. Fair deal. No problems. Their problems only started when they began looking at what the other workers were getting. The ones hired later in the day were told they'd be paid fairly. That's all they were told. And they seemed fine with it. No further expectations. The standard practice was probably an hour's pay for an hour's work. But when it came time for payment that day, the vineyard owner paid them all the same daily wage, even though some had worked only an hour. And those all-day workers, the ones that have worked all day in the hot sun, in the heat, their sense of entitlement was their first reaction. Hey, wait a minute. If you get that much for an hour, then don't I deserve that much more? Now, granted, it was a highly dramatic order of payment here. the owner deciding to pay the last first. But such is the theme of wisdom stories in the Jesus tradition. If there's a chance to emphasize that the last will be first, then the story will take it. As I've quoted before, comedian Louis C.K. has publicly told the story of his children fighting over whether it's fair that one of them had a popsicle and the other didn't. He ends this story by saying to his children, "You should look in your neighbor's bowl not to see if you have as much as them, but only to make sure that they have enough." The workers' reactions of entitlement require a response from the owner. Can't I do what I want with my own money? Are you going to get stingy because I'm generous? Suddenly, these workers are called on the carpet. They're called on what's going on inside them. If I have what I need, what I bargained for, what is enough, then why am I stingy with what others might receive? This isn't just entitlement. It's a view of the world's economy that sees all our resources as a pie. If you get more, that must mean that I get less. This isn't the only way to see things. The Jesus tradition inspires us to see a different economy. One that says, if you win, then I win. If you lose, then I lose. That there is no I and you, no us and them. There is only how we make our way together in this world. The alternate response to entitlement is gratitude. But here's the challenge, or at least one of them. We don't always feel grateful. Like the workers in the vineyard, for many of us, gratitude is difficult because life is difficult. Do we have to feel grateful to practice gratitude? That seems like a strange question. But I think many of us are conditioned not to be dishonest or fake. We don't want to put an insincere mask on just to hide our entitlement feelings or our grumpiness. It's best to be emotionally authentic, right? Maybe not. Maybe wrong. Building the best life doesn't require faithfulness to feelings in the name of authenticity, but rather rebelling against negative impulses and acting right even when we don't feel like it. In a nutshell, acting grateful can actually make us grateful. As Arthur Brooks writes in a 2015 New York Times piece, beyond rotten circumstances, some people are just naturally more grateful than others. A 2014 article in the Journal of Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience identified a variation in a gene, CD38, associated with gratitude. Some people simply have a heightened genetic tendency to experience, in the researchers' words, global relationship satisfaction. Sounds like a research paper. Perceived partner responsiveness, and positive emotions. That is, those relentlessly positive people you know, that we all know, who seem grateful all the time, may simply be mutants. But we're more than slaves to our feelings, to our circumstances, to our genes. Evidence suggests we can actively choose to practice gratitude. It doesn't take a lot to imagine that those who list things they're grateful for enjoy greater life satisfaction than those who list their hassles and their complaints. That's probably pretty obvious, but how about this one? In a famous 1993 experiment, researchers asked human subjects to smile forcibly for 20 seconds while tensing their facial muscles. And they found that this action stimulated brain activity associated with positive emotions. Now, not all of us are going to go around grinning uncomfortably like a scary lunatic for 20 seconds. So, why don't we take the easier approach then? Let's get better at expressing gratitude. What if we start with that gratitude inside us that gives thanks privately, personally? What if we tried setting some kind of unobtrusive alarm, like the vibrate function on our cell phones, for example, to remind us to take a minute just to do some deep breathing, to loosen our muscles and our limbs, to think about those things that are going well. Could they reframe us to do it naturally once we've developed the practice? Well, it's not a new idea, obviously. That's ancient, right? The calls to prayer in the Muslim faith that interrupt the day at 5 specific times. In the Christian church, it's the canonical hours, the 7 prayers of the divine office, all of them reminders to pause, to turn, to express gratitude and awe, offer prayer and praise. It's an old idea. Stop and be grateful. And then what if we were to move more ably then to exterior gratitude? I have a colleague who does this as a routine. She writes 2 short emails each morning to friends, family, colleagues, thanking them for what they do. As the recipient of one of her emails, I'll tell you, it makes a difference. In the long list of tasks, emails requesting something, the list of things to do that they remind us of, it's pretty refreshing to get an email that just says, thank you for being you, thank you for all the things you're doing, thank you. She must be one of those mutants. What if, like Gerard Manley Hopkins, who wrote this poem centuries ago that reminds us to be grateful for all the tiny, useless, everyday things? It's relatively easy, isn't it, to be thankful for the most important and obvious parts of our life? A happy relationship, a healthy family, relative safety and peace. But deep gratitude finds ways to give thanks for the little insignificant things. For skies of couple color as a brinded cow. Never thought of the sky that way. Or cows. For rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim. Landscape plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plow, and all trades their gear and tackle and trim. Be honest, when was the last time you were grateful for the spots on a trout? Or a tool, like a hammer, a saw, a pair of scissors. Think of the small, insignificant things you experience. Amazing to think how long that list might be. I wonder what would be on our list if we were to start one, for not just the big stuff, but the little, the trivial, the trifles, the details you might fail to notice. I wonder what difference to our living it might make if we could develop gratitude, not only when we feel like it, but especially when we don't. May we work to make it so, in so many different ways. When we're together and we celebrate that which is important to us, all that is valuable in our living, that which we place high esteem in terms of our world and our life together, when we do that, how can we keep from singing? How can we keep from celebrating? How can we keep from going into this life of ours and making a difference in big ways and in tiny? And regardless how we feel, we go about the work of being grateful for all of it. May we go in the light of peace.